That was quite the clip of the snakes and the iguana. As you will have heard just now, this is Josh Sapan, who's the president and CEO of AMC Networks. Now, I just want to give you a little bit more information. So you've been leading AMC Networks for more than 20 years. You've taken it public. You've made it global. You're now operating in, I think, 140 countries. You have a portfolio of networks. It's not just AMC. There's IFC, the Sundance Channel, WeTV, and BBC America. Yes. You've expanded into streaming with a number of subscription services, and you also are known for some pretty big shows. I'm talking Mad Men, Breaking Bad, The Walking Dead, and of course Planet Earth, as we just saw there. Now, that kind of content is the kind of content that a man in your position must be very happy to have under your belt. It's the kind of thing that grabs people's attention and hopefully holds their attention. We hear a lot about content being king. Is that still very much the case?
If I had to answer that, I would say yes, yes, and yes, with only one qualifier, which is that I think people do want to, and can probably with greater facility than ever, find the shows and the material that they like. It may be true of all of our lives. I do think that there is, at the same time, a big sort of race, a little bit. We saw the acquisition of Time Warner by AT&T close just a few days ago. We see the run-up in valuation of FANG companies. And so I think the platform, as it's commonly called, and the manner in which one engages with content and finds it also matters.
And to the same degree as the content itself?
No, I think if something is, there's perhaps a big, big, big mushy middle in which there's content that I would ask you, don't distinguish and are perhaps indifferent to. And then if I asked everyone, Emma, if I asked you guys rhetorically, think about the 5 things on TV you like the most. It might be news, it might be sports, or there might be a drama or 2 that you really care about. I think people will find their way to those things, but I think the fight for attention after that gets pretty difficult if it's not absolutely a monstrous franchise.
And it appears to be there is quite a big fight for attention at the moment when there are so many shows available, there is so much that's out there. How do you distinguish yourself? How has AMC Networks distinguished itself?
Yeah, so there is, and many people compile the stats in our world, which is largely dramas, some comedies and movies, and the stats are sort of breathtaking in terms of the television drama economy. It's gone from 150 to close to 500 new per year, so that number speaks for itself. It's curious that while that has occurred, I hope this is not a boast, but we just put on a show that I'm sure almost no one in the room has heard much about called Killing Eve. And Killing Eve is on a smaller channel. Well, someone's not nodding, which is great to see. Thank you for watching. As they say, there's 2. Thank you for watching.
From the,
We're raising our cost per thousand for advertising based on the 2 affirmations on the right. Thank you. It was a good day here at Bloomberg. I knew I could make a sale, or at least get the sale monetized fully. So thank you very much. But this show, so this is an interesting anecdote, and I don't mean it to be a pat on our back. It's a curious phenomenon. So 10 weeks ago, a show called Killing Eve premiered. A lot of TV shows premiere. Westworld, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, shows we all know, The Americans, etc. And Killing Eve premiered. And it wasn't, as they like to say in the business, cast way up, meaning it didn't star Brad Pitt. There was someone recognizable named Sandra Oh, known from American television. The other woman was not known. Her name was Jodie Comer. And so the show began small, and its linear ratings, as scheduled on TV, which is not today necessarily the most preferred manner, grew 8 weeks in a row. And this is a big thing for us. The television critics' nominations came out for Best Drama 3 days ago, and it received more nominations than any other TV show. So that's curious. Put aside that the show is wonderful, and I would recommend it. It's curious because people found it. And it's a good question. I worried tremendously about whether they would. I thought, oh my goodness, we've got something good in our hands, but they won't find it. So I think referral and social referral is becoming, and that form of so-called curation is becoming pretty profound.
And by social referral, you mean word of mouth, essentially?
I mean word of mouth, but you may not be out loud. Yeah.
That it can also be online, written down. Now that it has been nominated, how will an audience that's just heard of it through those nominations, how will they find it now? How do you make sure that it gets, you grow that audience a second time?
So we have to bring them to Bloomberg, Breakaway, and invite them to watch. So in all seriousness,
which we can play later.
I mean, the marketing job of TV shows is a world unto itself, as it is with anything. So it takes money, it takes resource, it takes time to activate social media, to create more referrals, to do it with some degree of efficiency. It means you need to spend your money wisely and differently than television used to spend it, which was historically on mass media. So it's a not insignificant part of what we do for a living, is to facilitate people finding it.
Let's look back then over the past 20 years, because AMC, as I think I mentioned earlier, it has changed a great deal through that. You've had this transition from what was essentially screening old movies to now having the likes of Mad Men and Breaking Bad on television through these various other different networks. Were there particular inflection points that you found as a leader spoke to you and said, this is when we have to change and this is how we're going to do it?
There were, and probably for us, if there was one big change point, or I'd say the biggest, is we had AMC, the channel, showed classic movies commercial-free and uncut, and that was sort of our proposition to the world. And for a long time, it was before the proliferation and availability of movies, the near ubiquity of movies, that was an interesting proposition because commercial television had commercials, and so-called classic movies. I think we were probably the first to, I don't take credit, Chuck Dolan, who is the founder of our company, named the service American Movie Classics, and they were each treated like a bit of a classic, think more art than commerce, and that world worked for us. So our so-called inflection point, as you called it, was probably driven by imperative as much as vision. Maybe the vision followed the imperative. So we foresaw that that technology would allow for a proliferation of, in that case, in this sense, movies, and access that would become easier and easier and easier. I don't think we anticipated anyone saying, Alexa, play It Happened One Night, but that did happen. And so we thought that we needed something that was proprietary and distinctive, and that we should do it in the vein that was consistent with the highest quality we could find and the genetics of classic films. And so we set out to do that, and happily early on landed at a show that had been widely rejected for a period of almost a decade by everyone in television, called Mad Men. And in fact, I took it to three people.
Which now everyone has seen, right?
It's a familiar name for most people, and I actually took the script to three people who I trusted the most, all of whom worked in television. I said, we're about to spend more money on something that we've never done. Would you mind giving me a reality check and reading it? And I got 3 thumbs down. In the same way that the television industry had, over a decade, given it a thumbs down, it was hard to read it, in truth.
So how did you then give it the thumbs up? If you'd seen all those thumbs down, if everybody else had given it a thumbs down, and then 3 people you trusted to give you good advice gave you the advice you didn't want to hear?
Right. So I always have relied, this is a line from something you may know, on the kindness of strangers. And someone got it, right? So our development people thought it was wonderful, the people who do program development, and I read it and loved it. As it turns out, I had a particular affection for it. My dad was a copywriter in advertising.
Right.
My dad was a creative director in the very same year that Don Draper was in the suburbs, and he was a Jewish guy from Brooklyn, so I read it with particularly rapt attention. My mother was nothing like the character in Mad Men. I would probably have had at least a more normal life had she been like Betty, but she wasn't like Betty. But yeah, so I had a little particular affection for it.
the industry has obviously changed again
Yes.
since you made that first big change, with the advent and growth of streaming and the multitudes of ways in which you can watch so many different shows now. Does it ever feel like the goalposts keep moving? And how, as a leader, do you get your team to that moving goal?
Yeah, so we talked about this briefly, and I think the goalpost analogy is a superb one, and it really is a different world than our world. The goalposts used to move, and then you'd be good for 2, 5, or 10 years, and now it feels like the game is we're going to change the rules every play. And so someone goes, and the new rules are, right, 3 downs, not 4. And the new rules are no field goals. And the new rules are you can't hit it with your head. And so the game is constantly now in evolution, which means one or an organization probably has to have different flexibility and agility and skills and a different mindset. And I did bring a clip. I don't know if you want to show it. I was afraid I'd bore you. So I brought a clip of a new show of ours that I mentioned, but we don't have to show that. We can make that a decision. But at the cherished 3:45 p.m. slot, I thought if I was in the audience, I'd be thirsting for a television clip.
We do. We have a clip of Killing Eve.
And they said they were going to make a judgment call, and I thought maybe I'll just take matters into my own hands and allow them to reject it. You can feel free to reject it. You can leave all your attendees wanting,
Why don't we leave
horribly disappointed.
Leave them wanting for 2 minutes.
Okay, good.
Just 2 minutes as I get to the point that just as a. Oh, no, here it is.
The Here assassin was a woman.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to my
Why are you doing this to me? I have absolutely no idea.
Sei bellissima.
Dovresti imparare a chiedere prima di attaccare una persona.
I believe there is a female assassin operating internationally, and she's targeted a number of influential people. She doesn't have a signature, but she certainly has style, and I don't know who or what is behind her, but I don't think she's slowing down, and that just interested me, I guess. But also apparently makes me a fantasist and a crackpot and completely on my own. And you know, frankly, I don't give a shit anymore. She is outsmarting the smartest of us, and for that she deserves to do or kill whoever the hell she wants. I mean, if she's not killing me, then frankly it's not my job to care anymore. Thank you.
Can I show you something? You think she's been operating for 2 years across 10 countries?
Are there more qualified people?
I want you.
A woman in London is leading a department just to find you.
They won't catch me.
They might.
They won't.
Never tell a psychopath they are a psychopath. It upsets them. Are you upset?
Sorry to insert the clip. I just thought it'd be more fun than me. I really did.
So we had 2 people who said they'd watched Killing Eve beforehand. How many people now want to watch it? Then you were right. We should definitely have shown the clip. How can they find it?
BBC America on cable television, or the BBC America app, or the AMC app will get you to it.
Going back a little bit to what we were talking about before, the goalposts keep changing or keep moving.
Yeah.
As a smaller company, does that put you at a disadvantage, or does it allow you to be a little bit more nimble?
You know, the common, I think, mythology today is that scale in media is great. I think there's certainly a lot of mergers occurring. I actually think it does cut both ways, and it's not great, and big is not best. Best is best. And I think that certainly there's a degree of insurance in being big in terms of financial performance, but I do think that agility really matters. So we're a $3 billion sales company, not $40 billion. I think it means we have enough resource to spend $1 billion, $1.5 billion a year in content and maneuver well. So I think it cuts both ways. I think there's some argument for small and agile.
You also mentioned in more than a few analyst notes as a potential target. There's nothing you want to share with the wider group today?
No, we continue to just operate our business as we have for now quite some time, as we've been asked through the years, as there's been consolidation through time, that very question, and we simply run down our thinking and run down our planning and operate with as much excellence as we possibly can. And I mean it. We really do seek to deliver value to shareholders in every single way that we possibly can, and that's what we do. So that's the plot we're on, and that's the plot we're running after with as much speed as we can.
And unfortunately, that is where we'll have to leave it today. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much
Josh
for your
Sapan.
time.